watching the Bulldog Brewhouse podcast.
Hey everybody, it's Steve Grover. It's the day before St. Patrick's Day, so if I don't see you tomorrow, everyone happy St. Patrick's Day. Get some Irish green beer into you, and hopefully you have a safe and St. Patrick's Day. Remember, if you're drinking, don't drive also. We're back here for another episode of the Bulldog Brewhouse podcast. I've got a good friend of mine that I know through CRISP in Atlanta, Georgia, a coaching program, Seth Price. Seth, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Good. So how's things with you so far this year?
This year, it's an interesting year. We have a lot of economic uncertainty in the air.
Yeah.
And also a lot of political uncertainty. So we're seeing, California looking at that Uber legislation on the PI side.
Yeah.
Very problematic. And, while inflation is not rampant the way it was last year, we see a lot of people concerned about the economy, which is not good on the fee-for-service side. So,
Yeah.
we're trudging along and numbers are decent, but definitely not super smooth sailing.
Okay, all right. So I know who you are. Obviously, we met through CRISP, a great coaching program in Atlanta, Georgia, run by Mike Mogul out of there in Atlanta. Tell a little bit people about, and my viewers, about yourself, who you are. You're obviously an attorney and everything you do.
Sure. So I'm an attorney by training, and I started a law firm with a buddy of mine 20 years ago, Price Benowitz.
Okay.
We're D.C., Maryland, Virginia, and even South Carolina. We started with criminal defense, but we have PI and family, so it's a substantial PI player in the D.C. market. 10 years ago, I took my in-house digital team and spun that into what's BluShark Digital today.
Mm-hmm.
BluShark Digital serves about 300 law firms nationwide and is considered the leader in local search. And so very passionate about trying to connect lawyers with clients using digital. And, over the years have been a junkie of these programs like CRISP and others, looking for any edge to improve the law firm from an operations point of view, and on the digital side, trying to figure out how to raise the bar and get away from the nonsense on the digital side.
Okay, so why did you become an attorney? What was the choice, or did someone make you become an attorney? Looking back?
My dad was an attorney, my uncle was an attorney, but they were very different attorneys. They were both small firm lawyers. My dad was outside general counsel, trust and estates. He still practices at age 90.
Okay.
So he's in the game. My uncle was a solo workers' comp guy in Beverly Hills after graduating Harvard. My dad Yale Law. So these are guys that came out at a time when Jews, for example, were not really welcome in most of the big firms.
Yeah.
And each found their own way. I knew that I didn't want to practice law long term, and saw in my dad's law school buddies, one guy who ended up running Paramount Pictures, another guy who was an entrepreneur in Spain for many years. And so I knew there were many options. Never thought that I would pivot back to being a lawyer or running a law firm. But from day one, with my law partner, Dave Benowitz, we divided and conquered. He was the chief legal officer, and I was the chief marketing and operations. So that's why I'm a junkie of that stuff. And by creating BluShark, I was able to replicate the success we had with our law firm. We now have 50 lawyers. I was able to replicate that for other law firms around the country, and that's been extremely satisfying.
Okay, so pretty much you still have a law firm. You're doing criminal law, personal injury, and what was the third area you focus on?
Family
law. And of the three areas, what's the most lucrative of the three?
Criminal was our original,
okay.
And it's an 8-figure practice. For the first time ever, personal injury has now surpassed it, and that's a neat place to be. And family is my new passion play. We've only started in the last 5 years, but I have no doubt that will be an 8-figure practice in the next 5 years.
And how many markets are you, your particular law firm?
The law firm primarily D.C., Maryland, Virginia, with a footprint now in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And we beta tested some lawyers around the country, trying to see if we, it's having a base has been easier to expand than just putting pins on the map around the country. So I've liked the expansion geographically with an epicenter. Although we have a beta test right now in Illinois.
Okay, so obviously you're in D.C., which is obviously where Trump and the White House is. And how big is your market in Virginia and Maryland with you bring D.C. together?
Well, I mean, it's a tri-state area,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
consider the DMV.
yeah.
And then once you're licensed there, we cover all of Maryland, all of Virginia. But, it's sort of like if you're in in many of the tri-state areas, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, there are people that service all three. We don't have the population of New York, so that the three are sort of needed if you want to be a regional firm. It's hard to specialize on just DC. There's just not that much population.
So what's the actual resident population of D.C.? Because we all think of it as, where the president lives, where Congress is, where the Pentagon.
Right. Well, Pentagon's actually across the river in Virginia.
Okay, sorry.
So that's how small it is. So
Yeah.
like, you land in National Airport, I think it's technically like, I don't know if it's DC or federal land, but that's across the river. So DC's probably about 600,000 ish. But to me, I look at it as an amalgamation of three markets.
Okay.
That all come together.
Okay.
And there's not a separate. The sports teams are primarily in the district, basketball, hockey, and baseball. Whereas football had moved out to Maryland, that's actually coming back. So just like my pre-COVID hiring, we put both Price Benowitz and BluShark in DC, and I would love to move, to the suburbs where it's a lot cheaper. By having an office in the city, you can attract people from Virginia and Maryland. The moment you move into Maryland, it's hard to get people to come from the bridge across from Virginia. It's very few miles, but it's really, really difficult to get around.
Okay, so you're saying you have about 50 attorneys working for your company now? And
My law firm.
Yeah, law firm. And how many staff members for the law firm?
It's probably about $180 all in, with a third being international, a third being domestic, and almost a third being attorneys.
Okay, so obviously you've been in the practice of law for some time. If someone's looking to set up their own shop and run their own law firm, eventually grow, what are two pieces of advice you give a young attorney out there?
I think that the goal is to make yourself dispensable. Again, that's a goal. It's not going to happen day one, but I think growing smart, and as soon as you can afford it, you scrap to get to the first $500,000, do whatever you need to do, right?
Yeah.
Gloves are on. Once you're there, leveraging, I'm a big believer in the B2C world of digital marketing as the growth engine. I think it's hard to network yourself to, multiple 7 figures, 8 figures with just networking.
Yeah.
So figuring out a digital strategy, I think, is important. It's one of my big passions. And I would say the biggest mistake that I made, and see a lot of people make, is investing in your non-lawyer administrative talent to get yourself there. When you start, you're doing everything yourself. Eventually you'll have an office manager, they're doing stuff. You'll outgrow them at some point. You'll have a firm administrator, and then the firm administrator, eventually a director of operations, with a COO being sort of the crowning achievement as you build and grow. And I think that the sooner you can get things you don't have to do off your plate, the more successful you'll be, the faster.
So sort of like the old saying, delegate or die. Would you agree with that?
I've never heard it that way, but I don't disagree.
Okay, and so as you're growing up with your firm, how did you, because a lot of people well, this is my baby, and you know what, I don't want to give this responsibility or this file to a junior lawyer because I've represented this client in previous criminal cases or car accidents before, and how do you, there's always that kind of, you have to give up the baby a little bit to grow.
Absolutely. I will quote my good friend and mentor, Chad Dudley, an amazing guy who scaled the firm. He just did a private equity deal on the law firm side, as well as his TV agency. And he says something which I think is more truth than anything else. He has a bunch of lawyers, a bunch of staff, and he's like, at some point, at any given moment, somebody somewhere is screwing something up. You know what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Now, it's not that we want it. You need to build systems. You need to put guardrails. You need to do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what? Two things. One, to begin with, nobody's going to do it as well as you. But if you run it right, they're going to do it better. So when you start, you can't afford the right talent. So you're right. Nobody's going to, if you pay the bottom dollar and you get somebody first year out of law school, yeah, they're not going to do it as well as you. But over time, if you have the revenue and you bring in the cases, you can afford to get talent that's better than you. And to me, that's the goal. Make yourself dispensable.
Okay, so that would include getting better attorneys, getting someone who's better at office managing, maybe a CFO lately, getting a good marketing manager, director. So spend the money to
Find the
get
right vendors that can partner with you.
Yeah.
All of those things together allow you to have a business. When you look at it like a business, not a practice,
yeah.
then you're really going somewhere.
So I've been through a lot of phases in my office, and I joined Crisp, and are you still with Crisp now?
I am.
Yeah, I enjoy it. We just had our Crisp retreat on Friday, 3 days ago. It was good. We had Sadie come up from, I believe she's in Phoenix now. I think Chris is looking to open an office in Arizona, which I think is a good idea to service the West Coast market. And everyone goes through like, well, I'm kind of tired of this. How do you keep your mental status consistent that you every day, you keep wanting to grow and do better, or just keep it going every day?
I think that it's putting a great team around you.
Yeah.
As we age, your energy may drop slightly. You need to make sure that you are positioning yourself for success. And I'm very blessed that on both companies, BluShark and Price Benowitz, I have an excellent executive team.
Mm-hmm.
And that executive team is bought in culturally and aligned. And we use EOS, we run on EOS to build and grow. And that has been just a tremendous, that has worked really well for us as far as aligning and getting everybody rowing in the same direction, which means I can stay in the visionary seat if you follow EOS, which makes it easier. I'm not out digging trenches.
Yeah.
I'm not in the weeds. I'm trying to deliver value and help motivate a team and bring them inspiration and direction as needed. And look, it's not perfectly linear. There are going to be moments where you jump back into the fray, but the less that I do it, the better off we are.
Okay, so your whole team understands the vision of your law firm?
Absolutely. We work on our core values,
Yeah.
which is PI, passion, integrity, excellence.
Yeah.
We hire with PI, we fire with PI.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is Pi Day. We're
Yeah.
celebrating Pi Day a few days early.
Okay.
And we'll be having a Pi Olympics, and the winner gets to throw pies at the managing partner.
Okay.
So pies thrown at me tomorrow. So all in
Okay.
all, it is a great. It is sort of something that helps us come together as a team.
And then you obviously got into the digital field. That's another aspect of business, BluShark. What led you into developing that?
I loved it, and I had a team, and I wanted my team to have opportunity. And when you do something in-house,
Yeah.
people's opportunities are sort of capped, and pay is capped. And instead, I was able to give people opportunities and leadership opportunities to build and grow. And that has been great. We recently did a deal with a private equity group. We're now part of a larger platform that I'm on the board of. And that has allowed me to give even further opportunities to our people to build and grow and learn. And so as long as you're giving people that, and BluShark was basically taking my internal team and saying, it's great to do it for one firm. Let's see if we can do it for an entire nation worth of law firms.
Okay, and how has that been with getting clients and seeing them succeed?
It's awesome. It's like, I've learned a lot. I've seen that the people that do best are the ones that look at their outside vendors as partners. Anybody who's like, hey, here's a check, what do I make, are not going to do nearly as well as people that are looking at, you can go out and hire all the people you need, but if you treat your outside contractors as a part of your team and your marketing people, integrate them into your life so that it's not like, hey, these are the people we're writing a check to, but this is our team. Those are the people I think get the most out of their vendors, and it's just a pleasure to see. I've seen friends of mine grow from very modest firms to multiple eight-figure practices.
Okay, all right. And obviously, probably not only with your office, but with your clients under BluShark, you have to keep people accountable. What's the best way to keep people accountable nowadays? Because, they always talk about ever since COVID, people don't want to work. I don't believe that. The shopping centers are full even here in Calgary. People are buying shoes. I was at the auto and truck show yesterday. Everyone was checking out the Cadillac Escalade V, the V8, 682 horsepower, which is almost 300 grand Canadian. It's not, but how do you keep your people accountable when they, you know,
Well,
you always,
we run on EOS, so we
yeah,
have management team meetings, we have, each department has its own meetings, and then the goals of the management team are then brought down to our individual teams, and then they report back up. Creating KPIs is a never-ending process. It's one that, I feel like I still have a long way to go,
yeah.
but the more that I can move from activity to productivity, that is the goal. Not always one that I win at, but that's what I push towards every day.
Okay, all right. So obviously you got into criminal law early in your career, correct?
I didn't, but the firm did.
Yeah, the
From
firm
day
did.
one, we divided and
Yeah.
conquered, yes.
So then your firm got into criminal law, then moved into personal injury, and now you got into a third area called family law.
Yeah.
A lot of lawyers cringe at family law because, there's a lot of sometimes drama with it. But what was the attraction with your firm to gravitate to family law?
I just saw a need in the market, just like when I started the firm originally with criminal.
Yeah.
I saw that there was a need for high quality representation at scale. And I think I still saw it, that there's opportunity there. And while there's some great family lawyers that have their niche practices, the marketing world was delivering a substandard product. And I have, like anything else, when you first start it, you don't have access to everybody you want. But I feel like we've built enough of a brand that people are coming to us now who are pretty badass, and that nothing pleases me more. What makes me happy is when I can add best-in-class legal marketing and have best-in-class lawyering to meet them. So that to land the plane,
Yeah.
I want to wrap this up with, hey, if you have the solo and he's like, look, it's not going to be done as well without me. I want it to be better. I can't practice criminal law or family law. But if when the phone rings, I have a lawyer that can solve somebody's problem at a really sophisticated level. And I brought the person in, I've given the lawyer a platform to work on where they can work on lawyering and not everything else. It's pretty special. We are able to help a lot of people at their time of need and do it in a way that the client gets a fair price, the lawyer gets to do what they want to do and make a great living, and if all of that works together and the firm is profitable, that's a home run.
So there's that book, not how but who. Do you believe in that
Who,
idea?
not how.
You don't
I'm
want
a
to.
big fan.
You're not going to go out and learn how to litigate a family law your file. You're just going to You're going to hire the right attorney.
Well, correct. And then we started with criminal defense. My law partner is the best and brightest in there. But yeah, you go out and you find talent, you pay for it, and then let them. And what we've done is brought in great talent, and then have them mentor the junior lawyers and incentivize them to build it up. And the hardest part is getting the incentives right, meaning you can bring in great talent, but how are you going to get it? Like, they'll make more money doing their own work. Well, if you incentivize them to train and mentor, then hopefully you can have your cake and eat it too.
Okay, all right. So obviously in the digital world, to build a bigger firm now, you just can't be out shaking hands and having dinner parties. You've got to get your name across the whole board.
In the B2C space for sure. The B2B space, the old school glad handing I think works pretty darn well. But in the B2C space, we got to go one step further. We got to go to 11.
Okay, all right. So obviously, you're digital. So talk about BluShark. Not only involved in SEO, but are you involved in like social media, stuff like that?
We stay in our lane primarily in the SEO, local search,
Yeah.
PPC, LSAs, and now AI search.
Okay.
We focus in that world. We leave the short form video, which is very, very important to others. We sort of do what we do very well.
Okay. And so your own firm would put out social media videos too on Instagram?
We do post, so the firm does, BluShark does, but that is not one of our big SKUs. We really focus on the search engine optimization. Local search is where it's at for most B2C lawyers.
Okay. And then obviously, what about getting Google reviews? Everyone always says it's important to get a lot of Google, some good Google reviews.
Beyond important. It's imperative. Ignore it at your peril. It's social proof. It goes towards the local search results. It's now being used in AI search results. It is vital, and I would say that it is not something that you can delegate it, but you need to be the person at the top of that pyramid, because the moment you take your eye off it, I made every mistake you could. I had my intake team in charge of it years ago, but then we got busy. Phone was ringing more, and I always ignored that because we were answering the phones.
Yeah.
So I have an independent team now that focuses on this. Not that intake doesn't get reviews, but as far as getting existing happy clients to get reviews, I have an independent team within my firm that focuses on that.
Okay, so you have an independent team that just focuses on Google reviews, and obviously, I mean, it's always important to get those 5-star Google reviews. And what's the follow up usually done on that part?
I mean, there's no, I can't tell you there's a silver bullet, but it's tenacity. It's having a system and a process, making sure you're using the most direct form of communication. Right now might be texting. People ignore their emails, they don't ignore their texts as much, follow up with a personal phone. It's whatever it takes. I would tell you, and I conclude this podcast with this, if you take nothing else from my story, if you ignore reviews for the average lawyer, this is US dollars, not Canadian dollars.
Yeah.
Every review is worth a minimum of $1,000, and in the plaintiff's practice, I would argue a minimum of $2,000 US.
Okay.
And that means that if you get 100 reviews for your firm, you'll make at least an additional 100,000, or if a PI lawyer, 200,000. And if you get, God forbid, 1,000 reviews and spread it amongst your offices, that you will make an additional $1 million to $2 million, depending on your area of practice.
Okay.
No doubt, annually, top line revenue.
Now, does your firm also do community events? Because I know a lot of law firms out there, there's a law firm in Detroit. I know he does like the backpack program, helping
Mike
kids.
Morris does a great job with that. We've emulated that in our market. We love it, but that's next level when you have a regional brand. I love it. There's nothing wrong with it. I do it myself, but there's some basic fundamentals you got to get to make it to the point where that's going to move the needle.
And what are the basic fundamentals for a law firm?
Building the having the systems in place, having the lawyers in place, having the marketing in place. If the basics are not there, the community marketing is something that layers on top of it to build that trench.
Okay. All right. Okay. So here in Alberta, we do personal injury at Grover Law Firm. And when you talk personal injury with your firm, is it just motor vehicle accidents, or is it all slip and falls, trip and falls?
But in the U.S., the motor vehicle is an essential major part, but we do a bunch beyond that.
Okay, because obviously, I don't know if you heard, there's a bill coming in Alberta now. As of January 1st, 2027, it's going to be no fault in Alberta, where if you're injured in an accident after January 1st, 2027, you can't make a claim. I mean, it sounds kind of like shocking for most American attorneys, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, for a firm to diversify, obviously there's other personal injury cases like slip and fall, trip and fall, med mal, dental malpractice. Regarding other areas of law, is there, obviously your firm does criminal law and family law. Are those two areas you'd recommend a firm go into? Obviously, if they're...
I don't know your market, but I think you'll have to sit down and have study the market and see where it's at. I know people have done very well with family law across Canada. I know some people done criminal. You got to figure out what you like, where you have talents, who's saturated the market, where you are. It's like anything, you got to do a full 360 of the market.
Yeah, do a market analysis. Okay. And obviously, you guys haven't never got into wills in the States. Is there a reason that?
We actually did. We did that for a while. I have counsel that does that, who's amazing. I think that it's hard to do that at the higher price point. It's easier to do that at the lower price point in volume, but the higher price point, it's hard the cost of marketing and the ability to track the quality of labor you need to do at the highest level is definitely a challenge.
Okay. All right. What about doing trusts? Have you ever done trusts? I know you got a family member that does that.
Yeah, no, we said we had it in-house for many years. It's now enough counsel. I'm less bullish on it, but there are people who have made a nice living doing it.
Okay, all right. And there's always general litigation, no matter what. There's business litigation. Obviously, there's Morgan and Morgan. I don't know if you're familiar with. Obviously, you know of him.
John's dear friend.
But he if you look at his website, he advertises business litigation, slip and falls, dog bites, med mal, food poisoning, a whole plethora of...
Right, he takes on he's looking for whale hunting for major contingency matters in the business space, and that he's a very, very savvy guy. He's done a lot of things really well.
Okay, all right. And then what was the jump for you to go to Chris? But I've seen you at many seminars across America.
Look, Michael's been a friend for many years. Want to support them. They've been very good to us, and always come away. Bernie, his head of coaching, I think is a true rock star, and Michael and his wife are been on my podcast many times, and watching how they built their own business. I think there's a lot for everybody to learn as far as how to operate and how to create something different than everybody else, and they've done a really nice job of that.
Okay, so obviously if someone's trying to change the market or be tenacious, you would recommend being different from every other law firm in the market, like sort of like in a market like Calgary?
I mean, look, it all depends. I will get, there's impossible to give blanket advice. I clients in your market, I know the market somewhat, but, I think that you have more of a what do I want to be when I grow up? If they literally just cut out plaintiff's practice for the most part, you got to take a deep, hard look and say, okay, what do I want to do now? And it may be that it's harder, you're at a scale right now where you might have to contract before you grow again. I just don't know how much, how long it's going to take you to recover from a legislative setback like that. That doesn't sound like it's nothing.
But I don't know. There's always a saying. Like I took my family to see Hoppers, that new Disney movie. I don't know if you've seen it, heard it. Yeah. But there's a scene in there where this professor was getting her program shut down by the university. But she said if one door closes, 1,000 windows open. So you have to be optimistic of change. I mean, change is all part of life. What do you think of that idea?
That's true. It's part of there. And, if you take the John Morgan quote, you grow or die.
Yeah.
And so, I think that you're at a crossroads, and, I would sit down and whiteboard what comes next. There's no definitive path for it. There's no right or wrong. But you see a bright guy with a good head on your shoulders, and you'll figure it out.
Oh yeah, we always do. And obviously, I've got Chris to help me out. I mean, we just signed up again for 2 more years with Chris. But I enjoy the sessions down there. But obviously, outside law, what else do you like to do?
I play tennis. I love to travel. You got 3 kids that keep me busy, and go to sporting events with my boys.
Okay, are you Reds? No, it's Commodores. Are you a Commodores fan?
No, Commanders. Commanders. Grew up a Giants, Yankees, and Knicks fan, and my kids brought me to the Caps locally in D.C., so it's been a lot of fun.
Okay, so all Alex Ovechkin's there. You guys won the Cup a couple years ago. That must have been big for D.C.
That was amazing. We just had being there for Game 4 was a great sports memory.
Yeah, was it in Vegas, Game 4?
They won Game 5 in Vegas, but Game 4 was here.
Okay, all right. And do you have season tickets at the Capitals?
I have historically, since my son's been away at school. I couldn't justify enough games I'd want to get to, and it was, as a B2C lawyer, I couldn't justify the seasons, but now that I'm an advertiser with a number of media companies, I get to a fair few games with them.
Okay, so there's a lot of lawyers out there, and I always tell junior lawyers that join my firm, there's a couple studies, especially the American Bar Association, that 50% of the lawyers quit within the first 5 years, and if you hit the 5-year mark, you're going to be a career lawyer. I don't know if you read that study, but beyond that 5 years, what's the importance for you as a lawyer practicing for so long of just staying in the game and not giving up?
Look, I think it's like anything else. And I think I'm going to flip this on its head, and I do have to go after this question. Yeah. What I would say is when you're hiring, that's most important. That there's risk. The reason why it's really tough to hire a first year is that you don't know if they're going to like it. They might not like plaintiff's law. They might not like whatever you're doing. And for me, the greatest risk is that you're going to train. You could lose somebody because they're going to get paid more money somewhere. You're going to lose somebody because they decide they don't like what you're doing. Yeah. And so to me, my model historically was to hire like 3rd to 8th years because they knew what they were doing. They had the basic training, and you could run from there. It's hard to find them in the U.S. with debt forgiveness on law school. Yeah. It's become a real challenge. So we're now looking at people just starting out, but that there's breakage. By the time you get to 3rd year, you sort of know what you're doing, and you like it, you get a sense. But in that first to third year, I think is high risk as an employer, and it really is very challenging. I want people to do what they're passionate about, and if they do what you're doing and they don't love it, you don't want them to stay, and they don't want to stay.
Yeah.
So, if you could take that risk off by, the people are doing personality tests, people are doing all sorts of stuff, but hiring somebody with some experience so they want to be in the business, that goes a long way.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. Well, I know you got to go, but I appreciate you being on the podcast. We'll keep in touch. We'll probably see each. I don't know if you're still in the same group as I am at CRISP, but we'll see.
I will hopefully see you there, and
Yeah.
hopefully you get some great reflections. If you want to talk offline, how do you figure out how to pivot from a major legislative change like that? That's not happening.
Yeah, and we'll definitely probably look at talking to you and BluShark and seeing how we can pivot and go forward from there and enjoy a long-term career like you and probably never retire. Okay.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Seth. Take care.
Thanks
Take care.
so much for your
Have a great
time.
week. Thanks for being on
Okay.
it. Cheers.
My pleasure.
Hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in for another great episode of the Bulldog Brewhouse podcast. In the meantime, stay safe, stay warm, and we'll see you next month in April. Take care. Bye-bye.
The Bulldog Brewhouse Podcast.